It had no official title. Those who dared speak of it called it the Codex of the Veil. A strange name, but a revealing one, because in nearly every ancient tradition, there's mention of a veil, a shimmering illusion that masks the true nature of things. In Sanskrit, it's Maya. In the Hermetic texts, it's the web of false forms. The Gnostics called it the archontic illusion. This book claimed to pierce that veil, and what lay behind it was not heaven, not a god, not even a divine purpose. What lay behind was architecture, patterns, systems, code, like waking from a dream and realizing the walls are made of numbers. The Codex was never meant to be found, but fragments of it began surfacing in the strangest corners of the world. One scroll, half-eaten by mold, was discovered in an underground monastery in Ethiopia, hidden beneath the chapel of the tablet. Another set of engraved plates was found buried beneath Mount Kailash in a sealed chamber, accessible only through a dream state described by monks as crossing the mirror. And the third, a leather-bound manuscript written in ink derived from crushed meteorite stone, recovered from the ruins of a secret Egyptian temple, lost beneath the sands. 3 versions, 3 continents, 3 clues, but all echoed one voice. They weren't copies, they were redundancies, backup systems, designed not to spread the book, but to keep it alive. The Codex opens with a chilling phrase: "The world you see is not the world that is, but the one you agreed upon." Reality, according to the book, is not built from atoms or quarks. It is not an objective thing waiting to be discovered. Reality is built from perception, shared, repeated, reinforced. The Codex describes it as the 9 mirrors, 9 layers of consciousness that reflect reality into form. These mirrors do not create matter, they create belief, which shapes matter. They tune energy into alignment, like fingers plucking unseen strings. When all 9 reflect the same image, it says, the image becomes law. This means gravity, time, death, fear, identity. All of it is only real if the mirrors are aligned. And if you know how to shift even one mirror, you change everything, not as metaphor, not as symbol, but as law. This is where the danger begins, because while mystics meditate for decades to access glimpses of this truth, the Codex laid it out like sin. When the fragments first appeared, they didn't just cause academic panic, they caused ritual collapse. Priesthoods found themselves facing doctrines that unseated their gods. Because the Codex didn't deny the existence of gods, it explained them, described them as echoes in the mirrors, projections given life by collective focus, constructs born from mass belief, not creators, but creations. That means the gods you pray to, you made them. Your ancestors made them. They are feedback loops in the system. To those who ruled through religion, this wasn't heresy. It was a virus. And so they moved quickly. Entire libraries were sealed. Temples burned from the inside out. Scholars vanished. Some were sacrificed for spiritual purification. Others were quietly locked in rooms where the mirrors could no longer reflect them. Because control isn't built on chains, it's built on mirrors. If the mirror of belief is fractured, you don't need bars to be caged. You'll create your own, and you'll defend it. Because you'll believe it's real. That's why this book, this Codex, was buried, burned, and demonized. Because it handed back the one thing all rulers fear the people having: agency. If you knew you could shift the mirror, that your beliefs sculpted space, that your consciousness was a coding tool, you wouldn't bow, you wouldn't beg, you wouldn't obey. You'd rebuild the world. But here's the danger. Once the first mirror breaks, the others begin to shimmer. And soon you'll see the truth of your thoughts, of symbols, of emotion, of time. You'll start seeing the script behind the simulation, and reality will begin to glitch. If belief shapes the structure, emotion charges it. The second mirror is not passive. It does not wait to reflect. It responds. The Codex called it the mirror of flame because emotion is fire, and fire does not ask permission. It burns what's true. Where the first mirror creates the blueprint, the second gives it breath, blood, and life. The world moves not by thought, the Codex warns, but by feeling. Thought draws the line, emotion makes it real. This is why prayers offered with dry lips fail, but cries from a broken heart shift probability. And this is why the architects of the veil taught you to fear your emotions. They weren't afraid of your rage, they were afraid of your joy, your ecstasy, your untamed love, because emotion is raw creation. And if it's awakened, it can ignite the rest of the mirrors. They knew this long before you were born, before your ancestors were taught to kneel, before the books were edited, before the light was divided into good and evil. The priesthoods, the empires, the hidden architects, they learned how to steal emotion and weaponize it. They understood that they could not remove this mirror, but they could reprogram it. Here's how they did it. They replaced wonder with fear. They replaced love with loyalty. They replaced grief with guilt. And then they created rituals. Rituals designed not to empower, but to drain. Imagine a child, full of spontaneous joy, told to sit still and be silent in the house of God. Imagine a mother, mourning her lost child, told to accept the will of heaven. Imagine a mystic who sees beauty in all beings, told to confess their sin of pride. They taught us to fear our own fire, so we would never learn to burn the cage. If belief is the blueprint and emotion is the fire, symbols are the code. The third mirror is not what you see, but what your mind associates. It's the mirror of encoded meaning, and it is the oldest form of programming. Every triangle, every cross, every spiral, every eye, every number, they are not just marks, they are command lines. Because the unconscious mind, the one that controls your breath, your instincts, your reactions, it does not speak English. It speaks in images. And those who understood this, those who had access to the Codex, wrote new languages using shapes. That's why ancient temples weren't just places of worship. They were machines. Architecture as code, geometry as invocation, and every step, every pattern, every echoing hallway was designed to tune your perception, to tune your mirrors. Even now, you remember it. Not the book, but the code. In your dreams, in déjà vu, in childhood memories that make no sense, in feelings that don't belong to this timeline. That's the fourth mirror, the mirror of inner memory. Not personal memory, not your story, but the memory beneath your story. The one that echoes across lives, between incarnations, within archetypes and soul fragments. This mirror doesn't reflect what you believe. It reflects what you've always known. It shows you that you've done this before. You've died before. You've awakened before. And each time you come back with a little more light. But this mirror is fragile. Because when you remember who you've been, you start to question who you are. And if you question who you are, you might realize the reflection was never yours to begin with. You were taught that time is a line, forward, backward, cause and effect. But the Codex says something very different. It says time is a room, and we are walking in circles. The fifth mirror, it reads, reflects not what is, but what is sequenced. It doesn't show events, it shows order. Your birth, your death, your dreams, your regrets. None of these are fixed. They are arranged, like books on a shelf. And your mind, trained to see in lines, believes that shelf is a road. But it's not. It's a library. And when you become aware enough, you can reach out, pull down a different book, and read a new life. Deja vu, glitches in memory, sudden flashes of the future. These are not accidents. They're misalignments in the fifth mirror. Proof that time is not ticking. It's waiting for you to choose. We think of progress as upward. We think evolution is forward. But the Codex warns us, without awareness, the spiral becomes the cage. That's what loops are. They feel like progress, but you always come back to the same point. New wars with old names, new technologies with old addictions, new gods with ancient thirsts. This is the sixth mirror, collective focus. It shows how timelines are written, not by individuals, but by the shared frequency of billions. Every time we all fear the same thing, hate the same thing, worship the same thing, we seal the timeline. And the Codex said something terrifying. When the mirrors align in fear, the veil becomes a wall. That's what the ancient empires wanted. Not control of people, control of focus. Because focus is a spell, and when billions cast the same spell, reality obeys. There's a number that appears over and over again in the Codex, 6,480. It's carved into Babylonian star maps, encoded in Mayan long count calendars, hidden in the Fibonacci sequence, embedded in pre-dynastic Egyptian architecture. The keepers called it the Great Reset of Reflection, a moment when the 9 mirrors realign and the illusion thins. It doesn't last long, just 9 years, but during that window, the system is unstable. The veil becomes porous, and memory returns. We are in that window now. From 2016 to 2025, humanity has been bombarded with glitches. Cracks in trust, cracks in institutions, cracks in what we believe is normal. But this isn't collapse. This is reset. The Codex said, when the mirrors tremble, the soul awakens. When the veil flickers, the sleepers stir. This is not destruction, it's opportunity. But only if you remember how to look. There's a reason you feel out of place. Like something's wrong with the world, but no one else sees it. Like your childhood was a dream, and adulthood is a glitch. You're not broken, you're early. The Codex says there are always those who wake up before the rest. They are mirrored souls, reflections from previous resets, reborn to guide the next one. But they often forget, because the veil punishes awareness. It isolates you. That's why you feel like you don't belong. Like your memories carry a deeper meaning, like you've done this before. To be awake in a sleeping world, the Codex says, is to walk alone through the dream. But even one flame can ignite the whole sky. You're not supposed to forget this time. You're supposed to remember. The dream is not illusion, it is rehearsal. Every night when you sleep, you re-enter the mirror field, untethered, unwatched, unfiltered. And there, behind symbols, shadows, and surreal colors, you are not bound by physics, not bound by time, not bound by who you think you are. You are free, but you were never taught to pay attention. So the veil trained you to forget your dreams, to ignore them, to laugh them off. Because if you remembered even one fully, you might begin to reshape the waking world. Dreams are the original classroom, the rehearsal space for reality. That's why shamans spend lifetimes learning to dream, why oracles slept in sacred chambers, why prophets received visions only while unconscious. In dream, the Codex whispers, you are already what you are becoming. So dream with eyes open, and soon you'll walk through this world like it's your own reflection, because We arrive now at the seventh mirror, the one you've carried closest, the one they worked hardest to distort. Identity. This mirror doesn't show you who you are. It shows you who you've been told you are. Your name, your culture, your traumas, your job, your gender, your story. But none of these are you. They are masks. And over time, the mask becomes so thick, even your reflection forgets what's underneath. The Codex called this the veil within the veil. Because once the mirror of identity is fully programmed, you'll defend your prison. You'll decorate it. You'll believe it was your idea. When the mirror lies, the Codex warns, you will forget you ever had a face beneath the mask. And that is the greatest tragedy of all. Not being trapped, but forgetting you were ever free. Now comes the most subtle mirror, the one few ever touch. Intention. It's not action. It's not desire. It's not thought. It's the force behind the force, like wind moving water, like silence guiding music, like hunger shaping dreams. The Codex said this mirror is active long before you make a decision. It exists beneath your choices. It is your original setting. And here's what they never wanted you to know. If you change your intention, you change your magnetic field. You no longer attract the same people, the same problems, the same loops. But to shift intention, you must first find it. Not what you want, but what you're aiming toward, whether you realize it or not. Most souls drift, the Codex says, not because they are lost, but because they forgot what they're aiming for. The eighth mirror brings the compass back online, and when it points true north, the veil starts to unravel. The veil starts to unravel. Now you know what they tried to hide, what they tried to burn, what they buried in stone and sealed in flame. The Codex of the Veil, not a book of belief, but of blueprint, not a myth, but a map. And you are holding it, not in your hands, but in your mind, in your breath, in your waking. Reality bends to the mirrors, and the mirrors now belong to you. You were never meant to see this, but now you have, and there is no going back. Not because you can't, but because you no longer need to.